Sometimes the most violent screams are the ones nobody hears. I learned this truth 40 years ago, when I was still doctoring in Montana Territory. Back then, we thought we understood suffering. War had taught us that much. But there's a particular kind of cruelty that happens behind closed doors, in the spaces between family members where love is supposed to live. This story ain't easy to tell, and it won't be easy to hear. It's about a young woman named Clara Farrell who couldn't speak a word, couldn't hear a sound, but whose silent scream one September night in 1894 was loud enough to wake the dead, or at least loud enough to wake one broken-down soldier who'd stopped believing in much of anything. What happened next changed everything I thought I knew about justice, family, and the price of freedom. Clara's fingers found the gap behind her mother's dresser drawer at midnight. When the house groaned with sleep and Samuel's snoring shook the thin walls, the paper felt wrong, too stiff, too official. Legal paper. Her hands trembled as she pulled it free from its hiding place, and the moonlight through the cracked window showed her what her mother had died keeping secret a deed. 20 acres near Willow Creek. Clara's name written in her mother's shaking script. Only yours. The note pinned to it read, "When they try to sell you, sell." The word hit her stomach like a fist. She'd seen Samuel talking with Harlan Pike all week, seen money change hands this very evening through the kitchen window. Pike, with his yellow teeth and wandering hands, who'd buried 2 wives already and was shopping for a third. Clara pressed the deed against her chest, feeling her heart hammer through the paper. Her brothers had been acting strange all week. Thomas wouldn't meet her eyes. James had been drinking heavier than usual, and Samuel had locked her in the root cellar yesterday when she'd tried to sign her objections to their plans. She knew that look in Samuel's eyes. The same look their father had when he'd decided to put down a lame horse. Something moved in the hallway. Clara shoved the deed down her dress front and pretended to be folding her mother's old shawl. The door creaked open. Thomas stood there, his face strange in the darkness. His mouth moved. Clara. She couldn't hear him, never had been able to, but she knew the shape of her name on his lips. He stepped inside, closed the door behind him. His hands came up, clumsy with the signs she'd taught him as children tomorrow. 6 morning. Pike comes. Clara's hands flew up. No, I won't go. Thomas's face crumpled. He was 32 years old, built like their father, but in that moment looked like the boy who used to sneak her extra biscuits. His hands moved again, slower. Samuel says decided, "Paper sign, I'm not livestock." She signed back, her movement sharp with fury. To him, "You are." The truth of it sat between them like a corpse. Thomas reached for her shoulder, maybe to comfort, maybe to warn, but Clara jerked away. She could see it now. He wasn't here to help. He was here to make sure she didn't run. His mouth moved again. "I'm sorry." But sorry didn't change the fact that he was standing between her and the door outside. A sound she couldn't hear made Thomas's head snap toward the window. His whole body went rigid, through the glass. Clara saw lantern light blooming in the barn. Samuel's massive shadow crossed the yard, and behind him, 2 more figures, James and someone else, tall, lean, wearing a coat that had seen better decades. Thomas grabbed Clara's wrist, not gentle. His mouth formed words she knew too well. "Stay here." But Clara had learned long ago that when men told her to stay, it meant they were about to do something that required her absence. She yanked free and shoved past him, her bare feet silent on the cold floorboards. Thomas lunged for her, caught her dress sleeve. The fabric tore. They struggled in the narrow hallway, Clara's elbow catching Thomas in the ribs, his hands grasping for purchase on her arms. She couldn't scream, had never been able to, but her mouth opened in that instinctive way, throat working, chest heaving with the effort of sound that wouldn't come. That's when the stranger in the barn turned his head toward the house, as if he'd heard something in the perfect silence of Clara's struggle. His face caught the lantern light, and Clara saw scarred features, eyes that had witnessed too much, and something else. Recognition, not of her, but of the situation. He'd seen this before, whatever this was. Samuel emerged from the barn carrying rope. Clara's blood turned to river ice. She knew what rope meant. They weren't waiting until morning. They were going to truss her up like a calf for branding and deliver her to Pike tonight, before she could cause any more trouble. Thomas's grip loosened for just a moment. Maybe seeing the rope had shaken something in him too, and Clara drove her knee up hard. He doubled over, gasping. She ran, not to her room, not to the front door where Samuel would catch her. She ran to the kitchen, to the loose floorboard she'd pried up years ago, where she'd hidden the one thing her mother had left specifically for this moment, an old Navy Colt, loaded, wrapped in oilcloth. Her hands closed around it. Just as the kitchen door exploded inward, Samuel stood there, rope in his hands, face twisted with the particular rage of a man whose property had just defied him. Behind him, James swayed slightly, drunk already, though it wasn't yet 1 a.m, and behind them both. That stranger watched with eyes that missed nothing. Clara raised the gun. Her hands were steady now, steadier than they'd ever been threading a needle or kneading bread or any of the 1,000 quiet tasks they'd expected her to fill her life with. Samuel's mouth moved. She could read the shape of the words. "Put it down, girl." She shook her head. James started forward, but the stranger's hand fell on his shoulder. Just that, a hand on a shoulder. And James stopped like he'd hit a wall. The stranger stepped forward into the kitchen, moving with the careful precision of a man who'd walked into too many dangerous situations to count. His hands were visible, empty, unthreatening. When he spoke, he looked directly at Clara, not at her brothers, and she could read his lips clearly in the lamplight. "My name is Caleb Winter. I knew your father. He saved my life at Antietam." Clara's gun wavered. Her father had died when she was 15. He'd never mentioned Antietam, never mentioned saving anyone. Caleb continued, his words slow and deliberate so she could read them. "He made me promise. If his daughter ever needed help, I'm here to keep that promise." Samuel's face went dark as fresh-turned earth. His mouth moved rapid fire, but Caleb didn't look at him. His eyes stayed on Clara, steady as bedrock. "You don't have to go with Pike. You don't have to stay here. You have choices." Choices. Clara had never had choices. From the moment she'd been born silent into a world that ran on sound, every decision had been made for her. Where to live, what to wear, who to marry, when to die. Probably. If Samuel had his way. But here was this stranger, this scarred soldier who'd materialized from the darkness like something out of her mother's old stories, telling her she had choices, and more importantly, standing between her and her brothers like he had every right to be there. The gun was getting heavy. Clara's arms ached, but she didn't lower it. Behind Caleb, she saw Thomas appear in the doorway, his face pale, one hand pressed to his ribs where her knee had caught him. His eyes met hers, and for just a moment she saw something flicker there. Shame, maybe, or memory, of when they were children, before their father died, before Samuel became the man of the house, before everything went wrong. Thomas's mouth moved, just one word, but Clara saw it clear. "Run." Before we continue, please leave a like and subscribe. Let me know which city you're watching from. Now, let's get back to the story. The Colt's weight pulled Clara's wrists down another inch. Her forearms burned. Samuel's jaw worked side to side, the tendon in his neck standing out like rope. His fingers flexed around the coiled hemp in his hands. Thomas shifted behind Caleb. A floorboard popped. The sound vibrated through Clara's bare feet. She felt it the way she felt everything, through bone and wood and the charged air between bodies about to collide. Samuel's chest expanded, but his mouth opened wide, yelling something at Caleb. Spit caught the lamplight. The stranger didn't flinch, didn't turn. His coat hem swayed slightly, nothing else. Clara's thumb found the hammer. The click traveled up through her palm, into her wrist. Samuel's eyes tracked it to the gun. His face changed, not fear exactly, but calculation. The same look when he figured feed costs against cattle prices. Her peripheral vision caught movement. James, sliding along the wall toward the back door. The floorboards transmitted his uneven gait, left foot heavy, right foot dragging, drunk weight. Caleb's hand moved to his hip, slow, deliberate, not reaching for a weapon, his coat pulled back enough to show an empty holster. He was showing Samuel something else, a badge, papers. Clara couldn't see from her angle. Samuel's face went the color of raw dough. The rope fell from his hands, hit the floor with a soft thump she felt through her feet. His mouth moved. "You're lying." Caleb's response was short. 2 words, maybe. Samuel's whole body recoiled like he'd been slapped. Clara's arms trembled now. Back! The gun barrel dipped. Rose dipped again. Sweat ran between her shoulder blades, soaking into the deed still pressed against her skin. The paper stuck to her ribs. Thomas stepped out from behind Caleb. His hands came up, not grabbing, just raised, palms out. His mouth moved carefully. "Clara, please!" She tried to steady the Colt, but her muscles had turned to water. The kitchen spun slightly. When had she last eaten? Yesterday, the morning before James reached the back door. His hand closed on the latch. Caleb's head turned a fraction. He spoke without looking at James. Whatever he said made James freeze, hand still on the door. Samuel lunged, not for Clara, for Caleb. His shoulder caught the older man in the ribs, driving him into the wall. The lamp on the table rocked. Shadows went crazy across the ceiling. Thomas shouted something. Clara saw his mouth stretch wide, neck cords straining. And in that instant of chaos, she saw it in Samuel's eyes. The decision? He was going to kill Caleb. Kill him and bury him out past the creek where he'd buried that stillborn calf last spring. She knew that look. She'd seen it the night he'd drowned the barn cat's litter. Clara swung the gun toward Samuel. The gun barrel tracked Samuel's movement. Clara's finger found the trigger guard, slipped inside. The metal was slick with her sweat. Samuel had Caleb pinned against the wall, forearm across his throat. The older man's face darkened, not purple yet, but getting there. His hands came up, grabbed on Samuel's wrist, not panicking, precise. Clara's finger moved to the trigger. The curved metal felt wrong, too smooth, too easy. Caleb's knee came up hard into Samuel's thigh, not the groin. The thick muscle just above the knee. Samuel's leg buckled. His weight shifted. Caleb twisted, using Samuel's own momentum. And suddenly, Samuel was the one against the wall. Caleb's elbow pressed into his kidney. The whole reversal took maybe 2 seconds. Thomas grabbed the lamp before it fell. Oil slushed inside the glass reservoir. The flame guttered, steadied. Yellow light washed across James, still frozen at the back door. His right hand had moved to his belt, to the skinning knife he always carried. Caleb saw it too. His free hand dropped to his hip, not to the empty holster, but to the small of his back. His coat shifted. Clara glimpsed worn leather, the handle of something that wasn't a gun. Samuel bucked against the wall, trying to throw Caleb off. His elbow swung back. Caleb shifted his hips, let the blow glance off his ribs. His mouth moved against Samuel's ear, close, intimate, like a lover or a priest. Whatever he said made Samuel stop fighting, not surrender, just stop. His shoulders stayed bunched, his fists clenched, but the wild thrashing ceased. Caleb stepped back, giving him room to turn around. Samuel's face was red-black with trapped blood. A vein pulsed at his temple, thick as a night crawler. His eyes went to Clara, to the gun still aimed at his chest. His mouth moved. "Put it down." She shook her head. The deed had worked loose from her dress, one corner visible above her neckline. Samuel's eyes locked onto it. His whole face changed, understanding dawning like sickness. He knew what she'd found, knew what it meant. James pulled the knife. The blade caught lamplight as it cleared the sheath. 6 inches of carbon steel, stained dark from years of gutting deer and rabbits. He held it low. Point up to the way their father had taught them. Caleb turned, smooth, no hurry. His hand came away from his back, holding something Clara had only seen once before. In a traveling show that came through Billings, a weighted leather sap, the kind city policeman carried. James took a step forward. His boot caught on the uneven floorboard near the stove. Not quite a stumble, but enough to telegraph his movement. Caleb moved like water, stepped inside James's reach, the sap whipping around in a tight arc. It caught James's wrist with a sound Clara felt through the floor, wet wood breaking. The knife spun away, struck the wall, clattered into the corner. James's mouth opened wide, screaming, probably. His left hand came up, reaching for Caleb's throat. The sap reversed direction, caught James behind the knee. He went down hard, his head clipping the edge of the table. Blood appeared at his hairline, black in the lamplight. Thomas hadn't moved, still held the lamp like it was the only thing keeping him upright. His eyes bounced between his brothers, Caleb, Clara, the gun. His throat worked like he was trying to swallow something too big. Caleb stepped back to where he could see all 3 brothers. The sap disappeared under his coat. His hands came out empty, palms visible. When he spoke, he looked at Samuel but positioned himself so Clara could read his lips. "Your father died owing me, not money, a life." Samuel's mouth, bullshit, Antietam, cornfield. 9th Corps tried to flank us through the corn. Your father was with them. Caleb's words came steady, measured. Got separated from his unit, got lost in the smoke, found me gutshot. Confederate rifle aimed at my head. Samuel's jaw muscles bunched. Could have let him shoot. Would have been easier. Wars like that, nobody would have known. Caleb shifted slightly, keeping the wall at his back. Instead, he put a bayonet through that Confederate's neck. Carried me back to the medical tents. Stayed 3 days until the fever broke. Clara watched Samuel's face, watched him trying to find the lie in it. "He made me promise," Caleb continued, "if his family ever needed help, especially her." His eyes flicked to Clara. "Said she was born different, said people wouldn't understand, made me swear on my mother's grave I'd look after her if something happened to him." Samuel's mouth moved. "He never mentioned you." "Because he knew what you'd become." The words hung in the air like smoke. Samuel's face went from red to white to red again. His hands opened and closed, opened and closed. "Here's what happens now," Caleb said. His voice must have been very quiet, because Thomas leaned forward to hear. "The lady leaves with me tonight, takes whatever's hers. You don't follow us. You don't send anyone after her. You tell Pike she ran off. Tell him whatever you want." Samuel's mouth, "Or what? Or Sheriff Morgan gets a letter about the land deed you're trying to steal, about the forced marriage, about holding your sister prisoner." And Caleb's hand went to his chest pocket, pulled out a folded paper. Already written. My friend in town will mail it if I don't check in by noon tomorrow. Clara saw Samuel's eyes calculating, measuring distances, counting odds. Morgan owes me, Caleb added. Pulled his nephew out of a burning barn outside Bozeman. He'd love an excuse to come out here. Loves even more to make examples of men who sell their sisters. That was a lie. Clara could tell from the way Caleb's shoulders set, but Samuel couldn't see it from his angle. James groaned from the floor, moved his hand, the one Caleb hadn't hit. Blood had pooled under his head, spreading across the boards. Not arterial bleeding, but enough to be concerning. Thomas set the lamp on the table. His hands came up, shaking slightly. He signed to Clara, clumsy but clear. Go, please. Go. Samuel saw it, his face twisted. You little shit. Thomas's hands kept moving. Sorry. Go now. Samuel started toward Thomas. Clara shifted the gun. Samuel stopped. Caleb spoke again. There's another way to play this. Everyone looked at him. The girl was never here. Died of fever years ago. Tragic story. You've been covering it up to keep collecting her portion of your father's pension. Clara's chest tightened. Her father's military pension. She'd never known it included her. Post office might be interested in that. Caleb continued. Federal crime, pension fraud. They send people to Fort Leavenworth for less. The gun was getting heavy again. Clara's shoulders screamed, but she kept it level, kept it aimed at the space between Samuel and the door. James rolled onto his side, pushed himself up with his good hand. His broken wrist hung wrong, fingers pointing sideways. He cradled it against his chest, face gray-green like old meat. Samuel's eyes went from Caleb to Clara to the door, back to Caleb. Oh, his mouth moved. You're bluffing. Caleb reached into his coat, slow, pulled out a leather fold, flipped it open one-handed. Even from across the kitchen, Clara could see the star, Deputy U.S., Marshal, real or fake. She couldn't tell, but the way Samuel's face drained of color said he believed it. 10 minutes. Caleb said. She packs. We leave. You never see us again, or we do this the hard way, and by Sunday you're all in jail or worse. Thomas moved toward Clara, slow, hands visible. He pointed to her room, then made a gathering motion. Pack. She looked at Caleb. He nodded. But when Clara tried to lower the gun, her fingers wouldn't unlock. They'd cramped around the grip, frozen in place. Her whole arm shook now, violent tremors that ran from shoulder to wrist. Caleb crossed to her, gentle. His hand covered hers on the gun, warm, calloused, steady. He didn't pull or force, just waited. Clara's fingers loosened one by one. The Colt's weight transferred to his hand. He checked the cylinder, all 6 chambers loaded, then tucked it into his belt. His mouth moved, just for her. Get your things. Clara backed toward her room, keeping her eyes on oil, on James, who'd made it to his knees, on Thomas, whose face was wet now, though she hadn't seen him start crying. Her hand found the doorframe. Her room was dark, but she didn't need light. Every board, every nail, every crack in these walls lived in her bones. She grabbed her canvas bag from under the bed. 2 dresses, her mother's shawl, the Bible with her birth date written inside, the bone hairpins that had been her grandmother's. The deed was still tucked in her bodice. The paper had absorbed her sweat. Gone, soft and pliable. She pulled it free, folded it small, tucked it into her shoe. When she came back to the kitchen, Caleb had moved to the door. Samuel stood against the far wall, hands flat against the boards. James sat in a chair, Thomas wrapping his wrist with torn dishcloth. Caleb looked at her bag. At her feet, still bare. His mouth. Shoes? She shook her head. Her boots were in the mudroom, past Samuel. Too risky. Caleb pulled off his own boots, kicked them toward her. They were huge on her feet, but better than nothing. He opened the door. Cold air rushed in, carrying the smell of frost and horse manure and freedom. Clara took one step toward it. Samuel's hand shot out, grabbed the lamp. The glass shattered against the wall. Kerosene splashed across the floor, the table, James's pants. The flame followed. Fire crawled across the floor like something alive. The kerosene made it blue at the edges, yellow at the core. Heat hit Clara's face, sudden and wrong. James screamed. She saw his mouth stretch wide, cords standing out in his neck. His pants had caught, orange flames eating up the kerosene-soaked cloth. He beat at them with his good hand, the broken one flapping useless. Thomas grabbed the water bucket by the stove, threw it. The water hit the flames and spread them wider, kerosene floating on top, still burning, flowing toward the curtains. Caleb's hand closed on Clara's arm, hard, yanked her backward through the door. Cold air, wet grass under the two big boots. The kitchen window flickered orange behind them. Samuel appeared in the doorway, silhouetted against the fire. His mouth moved, yelling something. His arm came up, pointing at them. Caleb pulled Clara toward the barn. Not running, walking fast, purposeful. His grip on her arm never loosened. The barn door stood half open. Inside, darkness and the smell of hay and horse sweat. Caleb's horse, a roan gelding with a white blaze, stood saddled in the first stall. He'd been ready to leave, had planned this. Caleb lifted Clara onto the horse like she weighed nothing, swung up behind her, his chest pressed against her back, solid and warm. One arm came around her waist to hold her steady. The other gathered the reins. They walked the horse out of the barn. No hurry, no panic. The house blazed now. Flames had found the roof. The tar paper they'd used to patch leaks last spring made black smoke that Clara could taste even from here. Bitter. Chemical. 3 figures stumbled out the front door. Samuel dragging James, whose pants still smoldered. Thomas behind them with an armload of something, papers, clothes, that he dropped to beat at Samuel's sleeve where an ember had caught. Caleb turned the horse toward the road. Clara twisted to look back. Samuel stood in the yard, watching them. His face was red in the firelight, not running after them, not yelling anymore, just watching. The horse's gait shifted as they hit the road. Steady walk. Caleb's arm tightened around Clara's waist when she swayed. His breath stirred her hair, warm against her ear. They rode. The fire fell behind them, became a glow against the clouds, then nothing, just darkness and stars and the rhythm of hooves she couldn't hear but felt through the horse's body. The road forked. Caleb turned left, not toward town, toward the hills. Clara's hand found his wrist, where it rested against her stomach. She tapped 3 times, their makeshift signal she'd invented in the last few minutes. He understood, pulled the horse to a stop. She twisted to see his face, pointed it at herself, then made a questioning gesture. His mouth moved in the starlight. Your land, the deed. She pulled it from her shoe. The paper was damp, soft, but intact. 20 acres near Willow Creek. She'd never seen it. Her mother had bought it before Clara was born, kept it secret all these years. Caleb took the deed, held it up to catch the moonlight, studied it, handed it back. His mouth. 3 miles, maybe 4. They rode. The land changed. Flat ranch country gave way to rises and dips. Cottonwoods appeared, their leaves rustling in wind, Clara felt but couldn't hear. The horse picked its way down a slope. Water smell hit her nose. Creek water. different from well water, greener, older, full of minerals and rot and life. Caleb stopped the horse at a cluster of 3 buildings. Not buildings, ruins. A cabin with half its roof caved in. A shed that listed hard to the left. What might have been a chicken coop, now just a suggestion of walls. He dismounted, helped Clara down. Her legs shook. When exactly had she started shaking? Back in the kitchen on the road, now Caleb lit a match. The tiny flame showed the cabin's door hanging by one hinge. He pushed it open with his foot. Another match. The inside was worse than the outside. Pack rat nests in the corners. Floorboards rotted through in places. Chimney stones tumbled across what used to be the hearth. But the walls still stood. Most of the roof remained. The corner away from the cave-in looked almost solid. Caleb's mouth. Tonight only. Tomorrow we fix. Clara nodded. He went back outside, returned with saddlebags and a bedroll, kicked the worst of the debris into a corner, spread the bedroll on the least damaged section of floor, gestured for her to sit. Clara's legs folded. The shaking got worse now that she'd stopped moving. Her whole body trembled like a spooked horse. Caleb built a fire, not inside. The chimney was ruined, but just outside the door in a ring of stones. The smoke would keep the mosquitoes away. The light would let them see if anyone approached. He came back, sat across from her, his back against the wall. The fire lit half his face, left half in shadow. Old scars showed now that she hadn't noticed before. A white line lined through his eyebrow, a puckered mark on his throat. His hands moved, not sign language, but clear enough. You, save, now. Clara's eyes burned. She pressed her palms against them. No crying. Not yet. Maybe not ever. When she looked up, Caleb was holding out a canteen. She drank. The water tasted of metal and leather. Her throat worked, swallowing becoming conscious effort. He produced hardtack from his saddlebag, army rations. The biscuit was rock hard, tasteless, perfect. Something to do with her mouth besides scream. They sat. The fire crackled outside. Through the doorway? Clara watched sparks rise and die against the stars. Caleb pulled paper from his bag, a pencil, wrote something, passed it to her. Can you write? She took the pencil. Her hand shook so bad the letters came out jagged. Yes. He took the paper back, wrote, What do you need? Need? Clara stared at the word. What did she need? Food, shelter, shoes that fit, a life that wasn't controlled by 3 men who saw her as livestock. She wrote, To be dead. His eyebrows rose. He wrote, Dead to them, or dead, real to them. He nodded, wrote, Can do. Samuel told everyone you died. Fever, very sad. Clara's chest tightened. Samuel had already been planning this, already had the story ready. She'd have disappeared into Pike's ranch, and everyone would have thought she was buried behind the house. She wrote, How did you know what to come? Tonight. Caleb's face changed. Something shifted in his eyes. He wrote for a long time, crossed out words, wrote more, finally passed it over. Didn't know, was passing through, saw you at the well yesterday, saw the bruises, saw them lock you in, waited. Clara looked at him. This stranger who'd inserted himself into her family's violence with a lie about knowing her father. She wrote, You didn't know my father? No, not a marshal either. No. Who are you? He took the paper, stared at it. The pencil hovered. Finally, he wrote, William Caleb Stone. Deserted it at Chancellorsville. Been running since. Deserter. The word hung between them like a confession. She wrote, Why help me tired of running? Saw you and thought maybe stopping for someone else's fight was better than running from my own. Clara studied his face, the scars, the deep lines around his eyes. the kind of tired that lived in bones, not muscles. She wrote, "They'll look for us." No, they'll look for you and Caleb Winter, not for a dead girl and William Stone. How do we live? No money. Winter coming. He smiled then. Just a small movement of his mouth. Wrote, "I know how to build. You know how to work. This land has water. Creek has fish. Woods have deer. We make do. Make do." Clara looked around the ruined cabin. Through the doorway, she could see the creek reflecting starlight. Her land, her water, her ruins. She wrote, "Samuel will check the land records. See, this is mine. Already thought of that." He pulled another paper from his bag. Official looking. County seal at the top. Her name, but not. The deed had been transferred. Clara Farrell had sold her 20 acres to one William Stone for the sum of $1, dated 3 days ago. She looked at him. He wrote, "Friend in the county office, owed me, backdated. As far as the law knows, Clara Farrell sold this land and left the territory, but it's mine. Yes, always. This is just paper. Makes them stop looking." Clara held the false deed, her name signated in someone else's hand, her land given away on paper but not into truth, a lie to cover a life. She wrote, "What if someone comes? Then we handle it. What if they bring the law? What law? Clara Farrell is dead. William Stone bought land legal. Nobody here but us." The shaking had mostly stopped. Her body felt hollow now, like a reed. She wrote, "I don't even know you?" "No, but you know them," which is worse truth than that. She'd known Samuel and James and Thomas her whole life, knew exactly what they were capable of. This stranger had done more for her in one night than her blood had done in 28 years. She passed the pencil back. "Tomorrow." He wrote quickly, "Fix roof first. Winter comes fast here. Then the chimney. Need heat. I'll ride to town in a few days. Not Billings. Too close. Lewistown maybe. Get supplies. You stay here. Stay dead. Stay dead." Yes, Clara Farrell would stay dead, but who would live in her place? She wrote, "What name do I use?" Caleb considered. Wrote, "Your choice. First time you got to pick, isn't it first time? First choice. First anything that was truly hers outside." Something rustled in the brush. Caleb's hand went to his belt, to the Colt tucked there. They both froze. Waiting. A deer stepped into the firelight. Female, young. She looked at them through the doorway, ears swiveling, then bounded away, white tail flashing. Caleb relaxed. Clara didn't. Something about the deer's panic. The way she'd fled, animals knew things, felt things. She grabbed the pencil. Someone's coming. Caleb stood, stepped outside, stood very still, head tilted, listening. Clara watched his back, saw the moment his spine stiffened. His hand moved to the gun. He turned, mouthed one word she didn't need to be able to hear, to understand. Hide. Clara crawled backward into the cabin's darkest corner. Broken floorboards scraped her palms. Spiderwebs stuck to her face. She pressed herself against the wall where roof met floor, making herself small. Caleb stepped away from the fire. Let darkness swallow him. The Colt appeared in his hand, without her seeing him draw it. Hoofbeats vibrated through the ground. Single rider, coming fast. Too fast for safe night riding unless they knew the trail. The horse stopped just outside the fire's light. Leather creaked. Boots hit ground. Thomas stepped into view. His face was red, white blisters already rising on his left cheek. His shirt was half burned, edges black and curled. He held his hands out, empty, shaking. His mouth moved. "Clara!" Caleb materialized behind him, gun barrel pressed to Thomas's kidney. Thomas went rigid. Clara started to rise. Caleb's free hand snapped up. "Stay down." She froze. Caleb's mouth moved against Thomas's ear. Thomas nodded, dropped to his knees, laced his fingers behind his head. The gun stayed pointed at Thomas's spine while Caleb checked him for weapons. Found the folding knife in his boot, tossed it into the brush, stepped back, Thomas's mouth. "Please, need to tell her." Caleb looked toward Clara's hiding spot, waited. She crawled out, stood, brushed the cobwebs from her hair, walked into the firelight, but stayed beyond Thomas's reach. His eyes were red, swollen. The burnt side of his face wept clear fluid. His mouth moved. "The house is gone." She nodded. She'd seen it burning. "Samuel's hurt. Beam fell, broke his leg." Clara felt nothing at this news. Like hearing about weather in a distant county. James lost 2 fingers, had to cut them off, the burnt ones. Still nothing. Thomas's breathing hitched. His mouth, "I'm sorry." Clara's hands stayed at her sides. "No, you don't understand." Thomas unlaced his fingers. Caleb's gun twitched. Thomas froze, then moved slower. His hands came up to sign. Clumsy, desperate. "Remember the river? You were 7, I was 12. Clara's chest tightened. I fell through the ice. "December. Couldn't swim." Oh, her hands came up without thinking. "No." "You jumped in, pulled me out." "No." Her signs turned sharp. "Island. You got sick after the fever that lost your hearing. The ground tilted. Clara's knee hit dirt. The fire blurred. They told me you were born deaf. Made me promise never tell." Caleb moved between them, his mouth toward Thomas. "Stop talking." But Thomas's hands kept moving. "My fault, all of it. You saved me, and I let them." Clara lunged past Caleb. Her palm cracked across Thomas's burnt cheek. He cried out. She felt it through her hand. The blisters burst, wet on her palm. She hit him again. Other cheek. His head snapped sideways. Her hands formed fists, slammed into his chest. He fell backward. She followed him down. Fists into his ribs, his shoulders, anywhere she could reach. Thomas didn't fight back, didn't block, just took it. Caleb's arms came around her waist, lifted her off Thomas. She twisted, wild, elbow catching his jaw. His grip didn't loosen. He carried her backward, her feet kicking air. He set her down, turned her to face him. His mouth, breathe. She couldn't. Her chest had locked, everything locked. Caleb's hands came up to her face, gentle, held her head steady. His mouth, breathe with me. His chest expanded. She felt it more than saw it. Her lungs unlocked. Air rushed in, tasted of smoke and copper. Thomas pushed himself to sitting. Blood ran from his nose. The burnt cheek had opened, raw meat showing through. His hands came up. I remember everything. The cold, you pulling, your hands turning blue. Clara's legs gave. Caleb caught her, lowered her to sit on a flat stone near the fire. After the fever, you couldn't hear. Mother cried for days. Father said, tell everyone you were born that way. Easier, less questions. Born deaf. The lie could live for 21 years. Every story about her infant silence, her mother's difficult pregnancy, her father's disappointment at a defective daughter, all fabrication. I tried to tell you. When Father died, Samuel said he'd kill me. Clara looked at Thomas. Really looked. The burnt face, the shaking hands, the way he held himself like something broken. She signed, you were 12, old enough to remember, old enough to say no. When they started, his hands faltered. Started again, when they started treating you like property. You were a child. I'm not now. Huh? No, he wasn't. None of them were. Samuel at 38, playing patriarch. James at 35, drinking himself toward an early grave. Thomas at 32, carrying a 21-year weight. And her, 28, learning her whole life was built on covering up a 7-year-old's bravery. She stood, walked to Thomas. Caleb tensed but didn't intervene. Her hand touched Thomas's ruined cheek, gentle this time. He flinched. She signed one-handed. Why now, fire? Thought I was dying. Couldn't die with it. Samuel James, don't know I'm here. Left them with the Millers. Said I was checking the stock. You rode 4 miles on that. She indicated his burns. Had to. Clara looked at Caleb. His face gave nothing away. The gun was still in his hand, but pointed down. She signed to Thomas. Go back. His face crumpled. Go back. Tell them I'm dead. Clara. That girl is dead. Died in the fire. Or fever. Pick one. Thomas's throat worked. His hands. What about the land? What land? Clara Farrell owned no land. Understanding dawned in his eyes. He looked at Caleb, back to Clara. His mouth moved. You're really doing this? She nodded. Thomas stood, swayed, caught himself. His hands. Can I know you're safe? Clara considered, signed. Maybe. Years from now. Maybe. He nodded, turned to go, stopped, turned back. His hands moved one more time. Mother knew. About the river. She left you the land because she knew. The air left Clara's lungs again. Found the papers after she died. Her note said, for Clara, who paid too much for love. Thomas walked to his horse, pulled himself into the saddle with a sound Clara felt more than heard. Pain given voice. He looked back once, then rode into darkness. Caleb waited until the hoofbeats faded, lowered the gun, came to Clara. His mouth, truth? She nodded. He wrote in the dirt with a stick. Changes nothing, still safe here, safe. The word felt foreign. She'd learned to swim to save Thomas, lost her hearing for it, been labeled defective, sold like cattle, nearly burned alive, and now she was safe. The laugh bubbled up from somewhere deep, silent like everything else about her. But Caleb saw it, her shoulders shaking, tears running down her face, mouth open in soundless hysteria. He didn't try to stop her, didn't touch her, just built up the fire and waited. When the shaking stopped, Clara wiped her face, looked at him, pointed to herself, then signed something he wouldn't understand. Her name signed. The one her mother had given her before the fever, before the lie. She wrote in the dirt, not Clara. He scraped the dirt smooth, wrote, who then? She thought, wrote Emma, like my mother, Emma Stone. She looked at the false deed, at this stranger who'd become her salvation, at the burnt ruins that would become her home. Wrote Emma Winter. His eyebrows rose. She wrote, widow of Caleb Winter. He died in the fire. A smile touched his mouth. He wrote, smart. Widow has rights, protection. Will anyone check? Small towns don't check widows' tears. Clara. No. Emma now stood, looked at the cabins, the work ahead, the life she'd build from nothing but will and 20 acres of secret land. Something glinted in the firelight. In the dirt where Thomas had knelt. A key, brass, small. She picked it up, recognized it. Her mother's music box, the one Samuel had sold 3 years ago. Thomas must have bought it back, kept it, brought it to not brought. Emma turned the key over, felt the weight. This wasn't for her. This was for someone else, someone he hoped she'd become. Someone who could forgive. Snow fell through the hole in the roof, fat flakes that landed on Emma's face while she slept. She woke to white on her blanket, in her hair, melting cold down her neck. Caleb's bedroll was empty. She sat up, her breath clouded. The fire outside had died to gray ash. Fresh snow covered the ring of stones, the woodpile, the path to the creek. Movement in the doorway, Caleb stepped through, arms full of branches, ice in his beard, his lips blue-purple at the edges. He dropped the wood, signed clumsily with stiff fingers. Bad storm. 3 days, maybe. 3 days. They'd been here 2 months. October had turned to November, November to December. The roof was half fixed, the chimney still a pile of stones. And now this. Emma stood. The floor was ice under her bare feet. Her boots, Caleb's boots, still too big, sat frozen by the door. She shoved her feet into them. The leather cracked. Caleb had already started breaking the branches down. She helped, snapping the thinner pieces across her knee. The bark scraped her palms raw. Good. Pain meant not frozen, not yet. They worked without trying to talk, built the fire back up just outside the door. The smoke blew back inside, stinging her eyes. But heat was heat. The storm hit full by noon. Emma couldn't hear the wind, but she felt it, shaking the walls, driving snow horizontal through the gaps in the boards. They'd stuffed rags in the worst holes, but the rags froze solid and fell out. She melted snow in the single pot they owned. The water tasted of rust and dirt. They shared it, passing the pot back and forth. Her stomach cramped with hunger. They'd eaten the last of the rabbits yesterday. The creek was frozen, the snare line buried. Caleb pulled paper from his pocket, pencil. Wrote, "I'll go to town when storm breaks." Emma took the pencil. "No money. Trade labor. Split wood for supplies. They'll recognize you." "Different town?" "Grayling. Further but safer." Grayling was 15 miles. In this weather, might as well be 100. The second night, the wind shifted, drove snow straight through the doorway. They moved to the corner, pressed together for warmth. Emma's teeth chattered so hard her jaw ached. Caleb wrapped his coat around both of them. His body heat soaked through her dress. She pressed closer, no thought beyond warm. Alive. Tomorrow. She woke to stillness. The storm had passed. Weak sunlight filtered through the gaps in the walls. Caleb's arm was around her waist, her head on his shoulder. She didn't move. Couldn't, maybe. Everything numb. He stirred. His arm tightened, then released. Sat up. Frost fell from his beard. He stood, joints popping. Walked to the door. Emma followed, looked out. White. Everything white. The landscape erased. No trail, no creek, just smooth, pristine death waiting to swallow anyone stupid enough to walk into. Tooted Caleb's mouth. "We need food." He was right. 3 days without eating. Her stomach had stopped cramping, gone quiet. That was worse than the pain. He pulled on his coat, checked the Colt. 6 bullets. He'd been saving them. No choice now. Emma grabbed his sleeve, shook her head. He signed deer. Maybe. Too deep. She meant the snow. Try anyway. He left. Emma watched him wade through the drifts, waist deep in places, moving slow, too slow. 100 yards, and he was breathing hard. She could see it in the white puffs. She turned back inside, looked at what they had. Nothing. The empty pot, frozen blankets, a knife. The deed to land that might kill them before spring? Something glinted in the corner. The brass key Thomas had dropped. She'd kept it, though she didn't know why. Emma picked it up, turned it over. Such a small thing, useless. No music box here, nothing to open, nothing to wait. She crawled to where she'd hidden the deed, under a loose board, wrapped in oilcloth. Her fingers found the edge, pried it up. Not just the deed, something else, a second paper, folded small. She'd never looked at it. Too dark that first night, then too busy surviving to care. She unfolded it, map, hand-drawn, her mother's shaky lines, the 20 acres, marked clear, the creek, the cabin, and in the northwest corner, a symbol, small square with an X. Below it, 2 words, root cellar treat. Emma's heart kicked. She stood, went to the door. Caleb was gone, disappeared into the white. She couldn't wait. Northwest corner, maybe 50 yards, through snow that would swallow her whole. She took the knife, cut strips from the bottom of her dress, wrapped them around her hands, took Caleb's rope from his saddlebag, tied one end to the doorframe, stepped into the white. The snow came to her ribs. She pushed through it, holding the rope. 10 feet, 20, her dress soaked through, ice forming on the wet fabric. 30 feet, the rope played out behind her, a depression in the snow, barely visible. She dropped to her knees, started digging. Her wrapped hands hit wood, a door, horizontal. Covered with 2 feet of snow and 20 years of dirt, she scraped at the edges, found the handle, pulled. Frozen shut. Emma straddled the door, grabbed the handle with both hands, pulled until her shoulders screamed, "Nothing!" She sat back, looked at the knife. Worked the blade into the seam between door and frame. Twisted, wood cracked. She worked the blade deeper. Twisted again. The door popped free. Darkness below, steps carved from earth. She couldn't see the bottom. Emma looked back at the cabin. The rope stretched behind her, a lifeline through the white. She could go back, wait for Caleb, the safe choice. She went down. 6 steps, 7, 8. Her hand found a wall, rough wood, shelves. Her fingers explored. Jars, dozens of them. She lifted one, heavy. Liquid sloshed inside, the seal intact. Another jar, another. Preserved vegetables, fruit, meat, maybe. 20 years old, but sealed with wax and stored in constant cold. Her mother had put these here. Before Emma was born, before the marriage, when this land was first bought, a woman planning for a future that never came. Emma carried 2 jars up into the light, peaches in one, venison in the other. The meat had gone gray but didn't smell rotten. The peaches were brown at the edges, but the syrup was clear. She followed the rope back to the cabin, set the jars by the dead fire, went back. 6 trips, 12 jars, corn, beans, more meat, apple butter, pickled cabbage that made her mouth water just from the smell. On the 7th trip she found more than jars. A trunk, cedar, her mother's initials carved in the lid. A-R-G. Emma dragged it to the steps. Too heavy to lift. She opened it there in the dark. Fabric, wool blankets, moth-eaten but warm. A dress, blue cotton with pearl buttons. Her mother's wedding dress, maybe. And at the bottom, wrapped in leather tools, hammer, saw, nails in a leather pouch, all. Files. Everything needed to build something from nothing. She hauled it all up. The blankets first, then the tools, the dress last. Caleb stood by the cabin when she emerged with the dress, empty-handed, snow to his waist, his face gray with cold and failure. He saw what she carried. His mouth opened, closed. Emma held up the dress, pointed to the cellar, made a gesture that encompassed everything. The jars lined up by the door, the blankets, the tools. He walked to the jars, picked up the venison, examined the seal, looked at her. His face changed, not quite a smile, but something. They ate the venison cold, fingers tearing at the gray meat, salt and survival on her tongue. The juice ran down her chin. She didn't care. Caleb opened the peaches, fed her one with his fingers. The sweetness hurt her teeth. Perfect pain. When they'd eaten half of everything, he stopped her. Signed save. Yes, save. Ration. Make it last. But for now, full or full enough. Emma showed him the map, the root cellar. The tools! He studied everything with the intensity of a man recalculating odds. Wrote, "Your mother was smart. She knew what Emma thought. Wrote that someday her daughter would need this." They spent the rest of the day hauling everything from the cellar. 32 jars total. The blankets, tools, a small box of seeds, carefully labeled, even a leather journal, water-damaged but readable. Her mother's recipes, preserving instructions, plans for a garden that never got planted. As the sun set, Emma sat with the journal while Caleb repaired the door with the newfound tools. She read by firelight, learning her mother's younger self through cucumber pickle recipes and notes about soil acidity. Then she found it, tucked between pages, a photograph. Her mother, young, standing next to a man Emma didn't recognize, not her father. This man was thin, refined, city clothes. On the back, in pencil, Robert and Emma, Boston, 1854, a year before her mother married her father. Emma stared at the photograph, her mother's face, smiling, free, before Montana, before marriage, before 4 children and a lie about the deaf one, before movement outside. Caleb's hand went to his gun. He stepped to the door, a figure on horseback, approaching slow through the snow. Not Thomas. Samuel sat his horse 50 feet from the cabin, his left leg splinted and tied to the saddle, his face drawn with pain or cold or both. His mouth moved. Caleb's reply was short. Samuel's face darkened. Emma stepped into view. Samuel's eyes found her. His mouth shaped one word. Thief. Samuel's horse stamped, breath steaming. The splinted leg stuck out at an angle that looked wrong even from 50 feet away. His good hand held the reins. The other arm hung useless. Caleb stepped between Emma and Samuel. His hand rested on the colt's grip, but didn't draw. Samuel's mouth moved, longer speech. His good hand gestured at the cabin, the land, Emma. Caleb responded, short. Samuel's face went darker. Emma moved to see around Caleb's shoulder. Samuel's eyes tracked to her. His mouth, "That's my mother's dress." She looked down. She'd put on the blue cotton dress from the trunk, her mother's dress, wedding dress, maybe. Samuel swung his good leg over, dropped from the horse. His splinted leg hit the snow and he went down, face contorting. He pushed himself up, one-handed, the splinted leg dragging a trench through the snow. Caleb's gun cleared leather. Samuel stopped, swaying on one leg, his mouth, "She stole from us." Caleb's response made Samuel's jaw clench. "That land is ours. Father bought it." Emma stepped around Caleb, walked toward Samuel. Caleb's hand caught her arm. She shook him off. 10 feet from Samuel, she stopped, close enough to see the yellow in his eyes, the scabs on his burned neck, the way his splinted leg trembled with the effort of standing. She pulled the deed from her pocket, unfolded it, held it up. Samuel's eyes flicked to it. His mouth forged. Emma shook her head. Mother had no money of her own. Emma pulled out the photograph. Robert and Emma, Boston, 18, held it up. Samuel's face changed. He'd never seen it before, never knew about Boston, about Robert, about the woman their mother was before Montana. His mouth, "Doesn't matter. You're dead." Emma nodded. Yes. Clara Farrell was dead. "This land belongs to—" He stopped, stared at the deed again. At the date, 3 days before the fire, before Clara died. The transfer to William Stone. Understanding hit his face. His mouth, "You planned this." "No, but let him think it." Emma folded the papers, put them back in her pocket. Samuel's good hand went to his coat. Caleb's gun came up. Samuel froze. Just paper. Samuel's mouth said, "Want to show her?" Caleb nodded. Samuel pulled out an envelope, water-stained, addressed to Clara Farrell. Emma took it. The seal was broken. Samuel had already read it. Inside, a letter from the First National Bank of Billings. Notice of foreclosure. The Farrell Ranch. 60 days to pay or vacate. Dated 2 weeks ago. Emma looked at Samuel. His mouth, "Need money. Pike won't buy damaged goods." His eyes went to her face. "Thomas told him you were touched in the head. Violent. Deal's off." Thomas had sabotaged the sale. "Bank takes the ranch in spring. We got nothing." Samuel's weight shifted. The splinted leg buckled. He caught himself. "James can't work. Hands infected. Thomas won't come back from town." Won't come back. Thomas had left them. Emma handed the foreclosure notice back. Samuel didn't take it. His mouth, 20 acres, worth maybe $200, enough to pay the bank. Keep the ranch. She understood now. He wasn't here for revenge. He was here to beg. "Sell it to me." His mouth said, "I'll pay. Take time, but I'll pay." Emma shook her head. His face flushed. "It's family land." She signed, "I'm not family. I'm dead. Remember?" He couldn't read the sense, but he understood the meaning. His good hand clenched. "You owe us. We raised you, fed you." Emma laughed, silent, but her shoulders shook with it. "Raised her like livestock, fed her table scraps after the men ate." Samuel lunged. Even with the broken leg, he was fast. His good hand caught her throat. They went down together into the snow. His weight crushed the air from her lungs. His thumb found her windpipe, pressed. Black spots exploded across her vision. Her hands clawed at his face, found his eyes, pressed hard. He reared back. The gunshot vibrated through the ground. Samuel froze. Blood appeared on his sleeve. He looked at his arm, at the hole in his coat. Caleb stood over them, gun smoking. Samuel's hand released Emma's throat. She rolled away, gasping, tasted blood, her own or his. She couldn't tell. Caleb's mouth moved. Samuel nodded, pushed himself up. His wounded arm hung wrong now. The bullet had broken something. He stood, swayed, looked at Emma. His mouth, "Should have drowned you that day at the river. Should have let you both drown." Both. Emma's chest locked. Samuel's mouth kept moving. "Thomas in the water? You going after him? Could have let the ice take you both. Almost did." He'd been there, watching, letting it happen. "But father came, pulled you out. Thomas first, then you." Samuel's face twisted. "Wrong order. Should have been you first. You were smaller, colder. Would have died quiet." Emma got to her feet. Snow fell from the blue dress. Her mother's dress. The woman who'd known. Who'd bought 20 acres in secret because she knew what her sons would become. Samuel turned to his horse, dragged himself up one-handed. The wounded arm flopped. Blood dripped onto the snow. He looked down at them, mouth moving. "Spring comes, we'll be gone. California, maybe, or dead." He pointed at Emma. "You did this." No, he did this. 21 years ago, when he watched his sister save his brother, and wished she'd died doing it. Samuel rode away, slow, the horse picking through the drifts. Emma touched her throat, bruises already forming. She'd have his handprint on her neck for weeks. Caleb lowered the gun, his mouth, "Should have killed him." Emma shook her head. Death was too easy. Living with failure, with losing everything, with James dying of infection and Thomas gone and no one to blame but himself. That was justice. They went inside. Caleb barred the door with a plank. First time they'd done that. Emma sat by the fire, pulled out the photograph again. Her mother, Robert, Boston, 18th. She turned it over, read the back again. Not Robert. Robertson. Her mother's maiden name was Garrett. Emma Robertson Garrett. But if Robertson was her mother's middle name... Emma looked closer at the man in the photograph, the face shape, the eyes. Her grandfather, her mother hadn't been poor, hadn't been desperate. She'd been rich, Boston rich, and she'd run to Montana, married beneath her station, lived hard and died tired. Why, Emma stood, went to the trunk, dug deeper, under the tools, under everything. Another envelope, sealed with old wax, cracked. She broke it. Legal papers, Boston seal, disinheritance notice, Emma Robertson Garrett, conduct unbecoming, with child out of wedlock. No claim to Robertson estates. Dated 18. Her mother had been pregnant when she married Clara's father. Samuel, the eldest, born early at 7 months, not her father's son. Emma's hands shook. She read it again. Check the dates. Samuel was a bastard. The very thing he'd called her when she couldn't speak. The shame he'd tried to sell to Pike. He was the family secret, and her mother had kept it, protected him, let him inherit, let him become the man of the house, even knowing what he was, what he'd become, because that's what mothers did. Emma heard something, felt something, through the floor, footsteps, multiple, surrounding the cabin. Caleb was already moving, gun up, checking the window. His face went white. He turned, mouthed one word. Pike. Pike's bulk filled the doorway. The barred plank had been torn away. Splintered ends showed where they'd used an axe. Snow blew in around him. 3 more shapes behind him, maybe 4. His tobacco-stained teeth showed through his beard. His mouth moved slow, deliberate, so Emma could read, "There she is." Caleb raised the gun. Pike didn't flinch. 5 of us. 1 gun. 6 bullets. Pike's mouth stretched wider. I like those odds. One of the men behind Pike held up something, a torch. Kerosene-soaked rags wrapped around a stick, not lit yet. Pike's mouth. Come out, girl, or we burn you out. Emma's hand found the knife. The blade was still dirty from prying open the root cellar. Pike stepped inside. His men followed. Emma recognized 2. Jensen boys from town. The third was a stranger. Lean, hungry-looking, all of them armed. Rifles, pistols. Jensen had a scattergun. Samuel said you were dead. Pike's eyes traveled down the blue dress. Don't look dead to me. Caleb kept the gun on Pike, his mouth toward the men. This is my land, my wife. Leave. Pike laughed. She felt it through the floor, big man's laughter. Belly deep. Your wife, this deaf bitch. Pike pulled papers from his coat. Got a bill of sale right here, signed by Samuel Farrell, dated before any fire. Emma saw the date, 3 weeks ago, before she'd found the deed, before she'd known about the land. Samuel had been planning to sell her for months. Pike continued. Says I bought Clara Farrell for $500 and 10 head of cattle. Got Samuel's mark, even got Thomas as witness. Thomas had signed it. Now, Samuel says she's dead. Tragic, but here she is. Pike stepped closer, wearing a dress, looking almost normal. The lean stranger moved along the wall. Flanking position, Caleb couldn't cover everyone. Emma stood, walked to Pike, stopped just out of arm's reach. His mouth, there's my girl. She pulled out the disinheritance papers, held them up. Pike squinted, read. His forehead creased. Emma pointed to the name, Emma Robertson Garrett. Then to the date. Then to the part about being with child. Pike's mouth. So, she pulled out another paper. The foreclosure notice Samuel had dropped, pointed to his name, Samuel Farrell, eldest son. Then she did the math with her fingers, 18 to 7 months. Pike wasn't stupid. His eyes went from paper to paper. Understanding dawned. Samuel's a bastard. Not a question. Emma nodded. Can't inherit if he's not blood. She nodded again. Makes the ranch go to... Pike counted on his fingers. James, then Thomas. Emma shook her head, pulled out the deed to the 20 acres, showed him her mother's will, written on the back in pencil, everything to Clara if the boys proved unworthy. Pike studied it. This legal? Emma shrugged. Maybe not, but enough to tie things up in court for years. You're saying the ranch is yours. A nod. And Samuel can't sell what ain't his. Another nod. Pike's face went red, then purple. The veins in his neck stood out like rope. He turned, his mouth toward his men. Get Samuel? The Jensen boys left. The lean one stayed, rifle on Caleb. Pike sat on the trunk. It creaked under his weight. His fingers drummed on his knee. His mouth played me for a fool. Emma waited. $500, 10 cattle, already delivered. His fingers stopped drumming, made a fist. Nobody cheats Harlan Pike. Outside, hoarse voices, a cry of pain. They dragged Samuel in. His wounded arm had been tied wrong. The bone showed through the sleeve. His face was gray-white, lips blue. They dropped him by the fire. Pike stood, kicked Samuel in the ribs. Samuel curled up, mouth open in a scream Emma couldn't hear. Pike's boot came down on the splinted leg. The splint snapped. So did something inside the leg. Samuel writhed. His good hand clawed at the floor. Pike knelt, grabbed Samuel's hair, pulled his head back, spoke into his face. Samuel's eyes found Emma, pleading. She walked over, knelt beside them, let Samuel see her face clearly. His mouth formed words, please, sister, please, sister. First time he'd ever called her that. Emma pulled out the photograph, her mother and grandfather, showed it to Samuel. His eyes went wide. She turned it over, pointed to the name, Robertson, then pulled out the disinheritance letter, pointed to the date, the reason. Samuel's face crumbled. He understood. 21 years of being the eldest son, the inheritor, the man of the house, all built on a lie. Emma stood, looked at Pike. Pike's mouth. What do you want? She walked to the table, picked up the pencil, wrote on the back of the foreclosure notice, leave, never come back. Samuel pays his debt to you. I keep my land. Pike read it. What about my money? She wrote, ranch is his until spring. Take what you want. The cattle, already yours. Pike considered, looked at Samuel writhing on the floor, at Emma, at Caleb still holding the gun. One more thing, Pike's mouth said. I came here for a wife. Emma's stomach clenched. Pike continued. Not you. Damaged goods. He smiled. But I hear there's a young widow in Grayling. Pretty thing? Lonely. Not her problem. Emma nodded. Pike stood, gestured to his men. They grabbed Samuel under the arms, started dragging him out. Samuel's mouth moved frantically. You can't. I'm your brother. Clara. She turned away. They hauled him through the door. His broken leg caught on the frame. The scream vibrated through the floor. Pike paused in the doorway. We're square, you and me. But if you're lying about any of this... Emma held up the papers. Legal enough to cause problems? Pike knew it. He left. The horses moved off through the snow. Emma counted hoofbeats. 4 horses. They'd taken Samuel. Caleb lowered the gun. His hands shook. 6 bullets against 5 men. If they'd rushed him... Emma sat down hard. Her legs wouldn't hold any more. Caleb came to her. His mouth, You okay? She nodded, then shook her head, then nodded again. He sat beside her, not touching, just there. They sat while the fire died down, while the cold crept back in, while the reality of what just happened settled like snow. Samuel knew the truth now. The eldest son, the heir, the man who'd sold his sister like cattle, was cattle himself. Bastard stock with no claim to anything. And Pike owned him now. Whatever debt Samuel had, Pike would collect. In blood, probably. Emma felt nothing about this. Empty as the root cellar they'd cleaned out. Movement in the doorway. Thomas stood there, face wet, not from snow. His hands came up. I brought help. Behind him, another figure, a woman, young, maybe 20, dressed like a man, pants, coat, boots that fit. She had a rifle over her shoulder and the confident stance of someone who knew how to use it. Her hands moved, fluid, practiced. Sign language. My name is Mary. I teach at the deaf school in Bozeman. Emma's chest tightened. Thomas found me. Told me about you. Thomas's hands. I went looking for someone who could help. Really help. Mary signed, I brought supplies. Food, tools, books. Emma hadn't seen books in years. And this? Mary pulled something from her pack. Wooden, rectangular, the music box. Emma's mother's music bed. The one Samuel had sold. The one Thomas had bought back. The key he'd dropped that night. Mary wound the key, held the box against Emma's hand. Vibrations, rhythm, the ghost of melody through wood and bone. Music she couldn't hear but could feel. Emma's vision blurred. Mary signed, Thomas says you want to disappear. I can help with that. How I know people, other deaf people, communities where you'd be normal, not broken. Normal. The word hit like a physical blow. But first, Mary continued, we need to deal with the men outside. Emma froze. Caleb was already moving. Gun up. Mary signed, not Pike. Different men, badges, law. The law had come. Mary's hands moved fast. Someone named Morgan. Says he's looking for Caleb Winter. Caleb's face went white as bone. His hand moved to the empty holster. He'd never replaced the gun after giving Emma the Colt. It sat useless on the table, too far to reach. Morgan's voice came through the walls. Emma felt the vibrations. Deep voice, authority. Mary signed 3 men, Morgan plus 2 deputies, armed. Thomas moved to the window, peered out. His hands, they're spreading out, surrounding us. Caleb wrote fast on the paper. I'm not Caleb Winter. Emma took the pencil. I know. William Stone, his face changed, wrote, William Caleb Stone? Deserted at Chancellorsville. They don't know that name. Morgan might. Been hunting deserters for years. Mary watched this exchange. Her hands interrupted. There's another way. They looked at her. You're dead. Right. She signed to Emma. Clara Farrell died in a fire. Emma nodded. And Caleb Winter. Emma wrote, also dead. Same fire. Mary smiled. Not a nice smile. Strategic. Then who are they looking for? Thomas understood first. His mouth to Caleb. You're nobody. Just a hired hand. William Stone. Caleb's jaw worked. He wrote, Morgan saw me at the ranch that night. In the dark. During a fire. While Samuel was screaming so. Thomas's hands moved and could have been anyone. Mary pulled something from her pack. Papers, official looking, employment contract. William Stone, hired as ranch hand for Emma Winter, dated 6 months ago. Emma stared. Mary's hands. I make these for deaf people all the time. New identities, new lives. It's not legal, but it works. A fist hammered the door. The whole wall shook. Morgan's voice again. Emma felt it through her feet. Caleb looked at the papers, at Emma, at the door. Wrote, they'll arrest me anyway. Check the story. Mary signed, not if we're convincing. She walked to Emma, pulled her hair loose, arranged it over the bruises on her neck, pinched Emma's cheeks hard, bringing color, made her look younger, vulnerable. Then to Caleb. Take off your gun belt, roll up your sleeves, look like you've been working. He did. Mary threw sawdust on his pants, rubbed dirt on his hands. Thomas, you're visiting your sister's grave. Grief, make it real. Thomas's eyes were already red. He nodded. Mary opened the door. Morgan stood there, tall, badge prominent, gray mustache yellowed from tobacco. His eyes went past Mary, found Caleb. His mouth, "You. Saw you at the Farrell place," Mary interpreted, her hands flying. But Emma could read Morgan's lips. Caleb stepped forward, hands visible, submitted. His mouth was there for work. "Samuel hired me to fix the barn. Night of the fire. Helping get the horses out." Morgan studied him. Eyes narrowed. "Where's Caleb Winter?" Caleb shrugged. "Don't know any Caleb Winter, Hecusquad. Samuel Farrell said Winter took his sister." Thomas stepped forward. His voice must have been rough because Morgan's head snapped toward him. Thomas talked, gesturing, pointing at the ground outside. Morgan's expression changed, softened slightly. Thomas kept talking, pulled out a handkerchief, wiped his face, Morgan's mouth. "Your sister's really dead," Thomas nodded, pointed to a mound of snow near the trees. They'd piled stones there last week, meant to be a garden boundary. Now it looked like a grave. Morgan walked to it, removed his hat, said something, prayer maybe, came back, his mouth to Mary. "You are," Mary signed. Thomas interpreted. Emma caught pieces. Teacher from Bozeman, helping the widow Winter. Charity work. Morgan's attention shifted to Emma. "Mrs. Winter." Emma nodded. "Your husband, where is he?" Mary interpreted Emma's signs. "Died in the fire." "Trying to save the Farrell girl." Morgan's eyebrows rose. "Winter died saving her." Emma nodded, let her eyes water. "Not hard. The wind was bitter." "Then who's this?" Pointing at Caleb. Mary interpreted Emma's signs. "William Stone, hired hand, good man, helping me survive winter." Morgan walked to Caleb, close, studying his face in the light from the door. "You were at the ranch," Caleb nodded. "Told you. Working in the middle of the night. Samuel paid extra for night work. Needed the barn done fast." Morgan reached into his coat, pulled out a photograph, held it up. Emma's stomach dropped. It was Caleb, younger, in uniform, Union Army. "This is Caleb Winter," Morgan said. "Wanted for questioning about a murder in Wyoming. Murder, sir, not desertion." Caleb's face stayed neutral. "Not me, no." Morgan held the photo closer. The resemblance was obvious. Same jaw, same scar through the eyebrow. "Sure looks like you." "Lots of men got scarred in the war." Morgan's hand moved to his pistol. The deputies stepped closer. Mary's hands flew. "Wait, I can prove it." She pulled out more papers, handed them to Morgan. His mouth, as he read, "Discharge papers, William Stone, 13th Infantry." Forged. Had to be. But good forgeries. Dated 18. Morgan looked up. "You served your full term." Caleb nodded. "Unlike Winter, who deserted." Caleb said nothing. Morgan studied the papers, held them up to the light, looking for flaws. Thomas spoke. Morgan's attention shifted. Thomas was pointing at the cabins, at the work done, the repairs visible, even in the snow. Morgan's mouth, "You did all this?" Caleb nodded. "In 2 months," another nod. "While Winter was running around kidnapping women." Caleb's mouth, "Don't know about any kidnapping. Just know Samuel Farrell's a drunk who burned his own house down. Sister died in it. Tragic." Morgan's jaw worked. He looked at the grave, at Emma in her mother's dress, at Thomas's tear-streaked face. "Samuel says different." Thomas laughed. Bitter sound Emma felt through the air. His mouth, "Samuel says lots of things. Said father was a war hero. Said mother died peaceful. Said Clara was born wrong." Morgan's expression shifted. Thomas continued, "All lies. Father was a coward. Mother died screaming. And Clara—" He stopped. swallowed. Clara was the best of us. Silence. Even Emma could feel it, the weight of truth or something close enough. Morgan put the photograph away, his mouth to Caleb. You were at the ranch during the fire? Yes. See anyone matching Winter's description? Caleb appeared to think, might have. Man ran out, carrying something, maybe a woman. Headed into the fire to help, but the roof came down. This man, where'd he go? Into the flames, never came out. Morgan looked at the grave again. Both of them died. Emma nodded, wiped her eyes with her sleeve. Morgan's mouth. Convenient. Mary's hand signed something sharp. Thomas translated, his voice rising. Morgan raised a hand, peace gesture, his mouth. Just doing my job. He looked around the cabin. The root cellar still open, the preserved food lined up inside. The tools, the evidence of hard work and harder living. You planning to stay here? To Emma? She nodded. Through winter? Another nod. Alone. Mary's hands. Not alone. Mr. Stone is helping. Thomas visits. I come when I can. Morgan considered, looked at his deputies. One shrugged, the other stamped his feet, clearly cold and wanting to leave. Morgan's mouth to Caleb. If you're William Stone, you won't mind coming to town, checking your story. Caleb tensed. Emma stepped forward, grabbed Morgan's sleeve, shook her head violently. Morgan looked down at her. This small woman in a dead mother's dress? Her hands moved. Mary translated, please, need him. Can't survive alone. Please. Morgan's expression softened. Just slightly. Ma'am, if he's who he says. Emma dropped to her knees. In the snow, grabbed Morgan's hand, pressed it to her throat. He felt the bruises. Samuel's handprint, his mouth. Who did this? Emma pointed to the grave. Winter. She nodded. Let him think it. Let him think whatever kept Caleb here. Morgan pulled his hand away, helped her stand. His mouth to Caleb. You touch her, I'll kill you myself. But Caleb raised his hands. Surrender. Morgan stepped back, gestured to his deputies. They mounted their horses. We'll be back. Morgan's mouth said, Spring, maybe. Check on things. They rode off. Emma counted hoofbeats until they faded. Everyone waited. 1 minute, 5, 10. Finally, Mary signed. They're gone. Emma's legs gave out. She sat hard in the snow. Thomas dropped beside her. His hands. I'm sorry. About the paper, the sale, everything. She looked at him. Her youngest brother, who'd signed her away but also brought help. Her hands. Why bring Mary? Why help now? Thomas's face crumpled, his hands slow. Because I remember, really remember, not just the river. After. Emma waited. You couldn't hear, but you still sang to me. Felt the vibrations in my chest when you held me. Kept me warm. The memory hit her, fuzzy, fever dream quality. Holding Thomas. Humming, because she couldn't hear herself. Feeling the buzz in her chest and knowing he felt it too. You saved me twice that day, from drowning and from the dark after. Emma's vision blurred. Mary knelt beside them, her hands gentle. We should go inside. Storm coming. Emma looked up. Clouds building on the horizon, black and heavy. They stood, started toward the cabin. Caleb grabbed Emma's arm, pointed. Someone was coming, on foot, dragging something. No, dragging himself. James, Samuel's brother, her brother, crawling through the snow. His infected hand black now, black up to the elbow. His mouth opened, calling, but not for her, for Thomas. Thomas ran, dropped beside James, turned him over. James's face was gray-green, his eyes rolled back, showing white. Foam at his mouth corners, not infection, poison. James's body convulsed, his back arched. heels drumming the frozen ground. Thomas held his head, kept it from slamming into the ice. James's mouth stretched wide. Black bile ran from the corners. Emma dropped beside them, pressed her fingers to James's wrist, pulse racing, irregular, skipping beats. Mary signed fast. "Get him inside." Caleb and Thomas carried him. James weighed nothing. Bones and fever waste, they laid him by the fire. Emma smelled it then. Bitter almonds, faint but unmistakable. She'd smelled it before. When they'd poisoned rats in the barn, James's eyes focused, found Thomas. His mouth moved. One word, "Samuel." Thomas's face went white. James's hand, the good one, clutched at Thomas's shirt, pulled him close, whispered something. Thomas jerked back. "No." Thomas's mouth formed. "No, he wouldn't." James nodded, violent, insistent. His mouth saw him with Pike, planning. Emma understood. Samuel hadn't given up, had made a new deal with Pike. James's breathing went shallow. Quick gasps, his skin graying. Mary signed, "He needs a doctor. 15 miles to town, in snow." With poison already in his blood, James knew it too. His eyes found Emma. His mouth moved carefully so she could read, "Sorry." She took his hand, the good one, squeezed. "Mother," his mouth said, "would have hated this." Yes, she would have. James's eyes rolled back, body rigid, then still. Thomas made a sound Emma felt through the floor, grief, awe. They sat with the body while the storm built outside, while the temperature dropped, while the reality settled. Two brothers left, one poisoned by the other. Mary touched Emma's shoulder, signed, "We need to leave. Now. Why, if Samuel killed James, you're next. All of you." Caleb was already moving, packing, the documents, the preserved food, everything essential. Thomas sat with James, wouldn't move. Emma knelt beside him, put her hand on his shoulder. He looked up, face destroyed by tears, her hands. "Come with us." He shook his head. "He'll kill you too, maybe." His hands slow. "Someone needs to bury James properly." After that, Thomas looked at Mary, at Caleb loading the horse, at Emma. After that, I would disappear too. Emma pulled out the music box, wound the key, and placed it in Thomas's hands. He felt the vibrations, the ghost of their mother's lullaby. "Keep this. Remember." He nodded. They left him there, with James's body, with the music box, with choices to make. 6 months later, Emma stood in the doorway of the new cabin. Solid walls, good roof, real windows with glass. The school behind it was smaller, but just as solid. 8 students so far, deaf children from 3 counties, brought by parents who'd heard about the woman who taught sign language. Mary visited monthly, brought supplies, news. Samuel Farrell had disappeared. Some said Pike killed him. Others said he'd gone to California. Thomas sent one letter through Mary, "Both dead to me, starting over in Oregon." Caleb, still calling himself William Stone, had built furniture through the winter, sold it in town, made enough to buy chickens, a milk cow, seeds for spring planting. His hands had gotten fluent with signs. At night, they talked without words, about the war, about running, about stopping, about staying. The land had transformed, garden rows. Fruit trees, small still, but growing. The creek ran clear. Emma touched her stomach, flat still, but not for long. She'd tell Caleb tonight, in signs, in writing, maybe even in the few spoken words she'd learned, a new life, not replacing what was lost, but growing from it. Connecting hearts. This story emerged from the intersection of historical truth and human resilience. In 1890s Montana, Deaf women faced extraordinary challenges, deemed defective, often institutionalized, denied basic rights, yet they survived, loved, and built communities. Clara's transformation into Emma reflects thousands of real women who escaped abusive families to forge new identities. The detail about learning through vibration comes from actual Tadoma method practitioners. Her mother's hidden resources mirror how women throughout history protected their daughters through secret savings and property. While the violence feels extreme, frontier justice was often brutal and personal. This narrative honors those whose screams, silent or not, finally found witness. Disclaimer: this story is a work of fiction inspired by historical accounts of women's experiences in the American frontier. Created solely for entertainment purposes, this story does not condone, encourage, or promote any form of violence, abuse, or harmful behavior toward any individual or group. All characters, events, locations, and circumstances depicted are products of the author's imagination. Any resemblance to actual persons, living or deceased, or actual events is purely coincidental. The narrative explores themes of survival, agency, and resilience through a historical lens, intended to inspire reflection on human dignity and the power of choice, not to glorify violence or revenge.